Welcome to today's episode of the Group X podcast. I'm your host, Tony Zanato. If you have yet to hit like and follow on Facebook and Instagram, do me a favour. Head on over there now. I'd greatly appreciate it. Today, I'll be talking to Dee McNeill, head trainer and presenter for Les Mills Asia Pacific. We discuss how you can take any class and make it successful through consistency. So grab your favourite beverage, sit back and enjoy the show. Dee, it is so good to see your face after such a long period of time.
It is so good to see your face. Absolutely looking forward to this.
Love it. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Group X podcast with me, Tony Zanato. How's that?
How's that? We're off to a flying start.
Hey, let's kick it off right from the beginning so that we're straight in there. Can you tell me and our listeners how you got into the fitness industry?
Absolutely. I was just finished high school. I remember being 18 and I'd enrolled applied for a part-time job, which was a research role, of all things, dressing in my school uniform and attempting to buy cigarettes, which was legal because I was 18, but should have appeared that it wasn't. Yep. And people should have asked me for ID. And the lady that I was working with, who was driving me around as part of the research and handing me the money and saying, go and ask for this, come back and report back. She was a fitness instructor. And in the car rides between corner stores and service stations, we just got talking and she was telling me about it. And I just thought it sounded like the most exciting thing in the world. So after finishing year 12, I enrolled myself in TAFE it cost me zero, which I think these days people go,
yeah.
What? To complete a fitness qualification. And then the gym that I was a member of, that I used to go and do step Reebok classes in, when I finished my fitness qualification, I just said to them, I've got a, at that point it was called a certificate in fitness, which is now a Cert 3 or 4. Yep. And if you ever need any help around here, I meant on reception, but they said, yeah, we need some new instructors. And I was like, oh, okay, sure. Yeah, I can do that. So I started there. The club was Genetics Fitness Club in Newcastle, which is where I grew up in New South Wales. Yep, beautiful club. And that's how I got started.
That is awesome.
Not the smoking bit, but the other bit. Non-smoker, by the way, just in case anyone's wondering.
That is so interesting. That's cool. I love that. Someone actually had a chat to you and just went, hey, what about this? That's brilliant. And not only that, Marty and was it Marty and
No. So Danielle and Marty. Danielle was an instructor there when I was an instructor. So the original owners who actually built the gym was Cheryl and Warren Mossman. Yep. Beautiful. Just the whole time I've been teaching, I'm always trying to get back to that type of community club because it was just a beautiful place to work. They looked after their members. They looked after their staff. I mean, they worked hard. They worked really, really hard. But it was just a terrific place.
Awesome.
To have the best start in the fitness industry. I was very lucky.
I've seen that club and it's a decent club as well. That's
Yes, and I've heard from Danielle that it's going really well for them too, which I'm not surprised because Danielle and I were sort of at uni, not in the same stream, but at the same time, and we were both teaching there. So we both had our youthful running wild time whilst teaching at Genetics.
Right. Awesome. So what was the first program you ever trained in now?
Yes. So my first program that I trained in was Body Pump.
Yep.
And then after that, Body Step. Yep. And then a one-day module for Body Attack, which I will never forget. Yes, and then onward and upward. But Body Pump was the first one that the club took on, and we trained as a club team. Yeah. It was a very special time. Yes, and then after that, Body Step came very quickly after that.
Pump was the first ever group exercise program that you did training in, or had you done sort of some freestyle stuff?
I had taught freestyle for 2 years.
Okay.
Prior to training in Les Mills, circuits, fat burners, step Reebok,
Yep.
step move, step athletic, two-step.
Yep.
I'd attended two-step, two platforms, and you move between two platforms. It's like step moves, but more complicated because that's what we used to do, just be more and more complicated.
My mind has just been, I trip over one step, let alone having two.
Well, there you go. Yes, so I started in the genre when freestyle was the go, and I attended freestyle workshops with Marcus Irwins and the Wendy Carrolls, and I would drive from Newcastle to Sydney to attend a 3 or 2 hour workshop to learn how to be a better freestyle instructor. Yeah, so this is before Les Mills sort of became the thing.
Love it. So who was your trainer for your module?
My trainer for body pump was Pete McNeill.
Okay. Yep.
And for body step, John Kelly.
Yes.
My club was one of the first clubs in New South Wales to take on body step. Yeah. So that was really cool. And then John Kelly again for body attack and onwards.
Yeah. Yeah. How was the training module for pump? How was that experience for you?
It was interesting. Genetics Fitness Club was a weight training gym because Warren had and was a weight trainer. And so I had learnt how to program weights programs and I liked training weights. Yeah. But doing low weights, maximum reps was a new training style. So even though I thought I was fit, it was hard. It was hard. And the modules evolved a little bit. Part of what we used to do back then, because people would train as clubs as opposed to individuals signing on to a group of whoever happens to sign on. There was an element of team building in that as well. So there was an element of we're all going to go outside and we're going to go for a run and do some sprints, and then we're going to come and do a weight circuit, and we're all going to work as a team. And it was very much learning the skills of body pump, but also learning how to be the best team that we could be, because the industry was a little bit different back then.
Yeah, of course. I think that's I love hearing that, because it shows the evolution of the program and evolution of the training as well, knowing where it is today, or I should say at least for where it was 5 years ago when I left. But that evolution to that, I mean, some of the other guys have mentioned as well around the hill sprints and that kind of thing that you're out there doing is so different. That's not involved in the training these days, but I think it's great to see and understand that change that has taken place, because it, like everything, there's an evolution that's gone through, and I think that's great to see what it was.
I think, and I don't know, obviously I wasn't involved with Les Mills International, but I believe it was their way of bringing the mindset of an athlete to the fitness industry, because at that time I remember a fitness industry, there was no high intensity interval training. It was sort of, we do high low and the class could go for an hour, but if it went for an hour and a half, you'd still be okay, because you're sort of in that fat burning zone, as we used to call it, steady state cardio. And that was sort of the main thing. Fat burner was our biggest class of the week. 90 people turn up to fat burn. And so I think really part of that was to teach people what your physical perceived limits are and what your actual physical limits are, and to understand that actually you can be an athlete and teach athletic inspiring classes.
Yeah. No, I love that. How was learning choreography? Because obviously coming from a freestyle, coming from this freestyle era, which was prior to Les Mills there, how was that? How did you go with that, learning the new stuff or learning stuff that was already pre-designed for you?
Yeah, I had a dancing background. When I say dancing, I'm going to qualify that by saying folkloric dancing, not dancing in the traditional sense. I used to be a Polish dancer in a troupe, and so learning choreography was no issue for me. In fact, body pump you could learn in 30 minutes. Yep. You just memorize 2 2 4 4, whatever the case was. So that wasn't difficult. In fact, most of the programs that I've trained in choreography has probably been, for me, the easiest part of everything. Yeah. And I think because for me, and I know that everyone taught like that, but when I taught a freestyle step class, I would program it so that you would do the same amount of foot strikes stepping up on one leg as you would on the other, because I'm very mathematically minded. And so I would always be thinking about what's the holding pattern, what's the building block, how do I progress from this to this without overloading one leg? And so you were always thinking about that when you're teaching those styles of classes. I know not everyone taught those styles of classes, so I know some of the people in modules have struggled because they've come from teaching circuits where there was no choreography, no pre-cueing, you just spoke and, you just moved whenever. So, but I think my freestyle and the types of classes that I had been teaching made it a little bit easier for me to transition into that.
This is the Group X podcast. How many days was the training module back then?
It was the same as it is now, 2 initial days, and then another day of come and let's see if you have learnt what's required to teach a safe and effective class, as I like to say. And
these days I know that is extended out to 8 weeks or something. It's a lot longer than what it was.
It is. So previously we used to do 1 weekend and then you'd go hard for a week trying to learn as much as you could, and then you'd come back for a day 3. And now we have extended out the pathway, we call it, to enable people to either practice in club with a mentor or practice at home with a no mentor pathway. And we've created some resources around that to help guide them through different things that they can do to help them absorb and understand the information and practice the tools and skills to best prepare them, so that when we give them a certification, we can say to clubs, this person's actually ready to teach on their own.
No, excellent. How was your training for STEP? Was it similar process that you went through for pump, or was that different?
It was very similar. In fact, I'll go so far as to say is almost an identical module, but just instead of lifting weights, we were stepping up and down on a platform. And again, I did the training with Genetics Fitness Club. When we did our STEP training, there was no STEP module. I remember because I was recruited as a trainer out of my STEP module, which doesn't happen anymore for anyone that's listening. That just does not happen. But Body Step was so new that they were looking for steppers to become trainers to take it round. And I remember when John said to me, we're doing this thing, and I'm like, I mean, I don't know what it is, but sure, let's give it a go. And I love STEP. STEP was my absolute favorite class to teach, even before Body Step. And I remember when he handed me the manual, and I had to go along with another trainer, Shelley Townsend, who's amazing, but she was an existing pump trainer. And she was coming on board to STEP again. So she had some training experience, but not really in STEP. But they gave us the pump trainer manual and said, and just where it says pump, just replace with Body Step. And so that was so the modules were identical, except we didn't lift weights, we just stepped up and down.
Wow. Hasn't that come such a long way? But yes, as I've said before, that's the thing, that we all have to start somewhere. Everything starts somewhere. I don't think I've ever seen something that's come out that is polished and this is it. We're never going to change this because this is gospel. This is the way it's going to be forever. Everything evolves. Everything changes. Even looking at if I talk back to the masterclass DVDs or VHS that they used to be years ago, some of the first early stuff, as I've spoken about before, was just a handy cam in the back of the room videoing the presenters from New Zealand up on a stage going, guys, this is what we're doing, follow this, and saying everything, to what it is these days is such a polished production.
It's such a polished production, and like any business idea or any idea or hobby that you might have, if you wait until it's perfect and timing is perfect, nothing would ever get off the ground. So you start with the best that you know at the time, and you learn and grow and adapt to your market as you move.
I look at this podcast as that example for myself. Yes. I go back and have a listen to the first ones in season 1 when I was chatting to clubs, and I think, wow, listen to you. That's atrocious. But it's as you evolve, you learn things, you get better, you get more confident with it all. I think it all, I still look at this now and go, I know this is going to be different in 6 months' time to what it is now, because it's still in that very early stage of what is this?
What is this?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, every person you talk to, every experience you have changes you as a person, and you can't unsee what you've seen. So you just continue. Growth is inevitable.
So how was the first training module you presented for STEP? How did that go for you?
So the first 2 modules I co-presented with Shelley because she had been a pump trainer, so she kind of knew what it meant to be a trainer.
Yeah.
And it was horrible because I remember as trainers we get these resources, and they're terrific resources, but they can be overwhelming if you don't know how to use them. And they have suggested things to say on how to explain the concepts. And my understanding was that I had to memorize these 3 paragraphs. And so I tried to memorize these 3 paragraphs, and I just could not memorize 3 paragraphs word for word. I remember it was the element of communication, which is now connection. It was, you know, how to relate to people. I had to explain what that meant, and it was just horrible. But you learn really quickly, as you say, from your mistakes. We learn really quickly. We evolve and adapt. And in that time, it was almost a baptism by fire, because Body Step. I mean, I was 24 when I was recruited to be a trainer. So, you know, I thought I knew everything, but really zero life experience, if we can be honest. And I remember it was quite a unique time, because for some reason, well, not for some reason, Step Reebok had been around, and then as instructors, we decided that fancy step was more interesting to teach than athletic, easy to follow step. Yeah. And so classes kept getting more and more complicated, and there was this decline of Step Reebok, or just Step as it used to be called. Yeah. And so I remember when Body Step first came onto the market, it was very simple. Yep. It was an athletic step class. I remember the class I was teaching at Genetics, often patroned by men who traditionally would say no to step because they think they're going to fall over the platform. But I remember going the modules as a 24-year-old to take people through training, and often people had more fitness experience than I had been alive. So I'm training people who have been teaching for longer than I've been on the planet. But I remember many people saying to me, you do realize I'm only here because my club is putting on Body Step, and they said if I don't train in Body Step, I'm going to lose my step classes. And I was like, well, what an excellent way to learn how to, 1, believe in your product, 2, manage difficult conversations, and 3, not to sort of allow other people's expectations to sort of sit and weigh on you. So the first few years of Body Step were really hard, and I think when Body Combat came along, as the next program I became a trainer in, that was a dream in comparison, because everyone was like, please come and train us in Body Combat. It was crazy compared to initially when we were trying to get Body Step off the ground, and the clubs were behind it, but instructors were very, very, very resistant initially, because they were freestyle instructors and they just didn't want to.
Yeah. No, look, I for the first couple of years when I was around, from 2003 to probably 2005, 2006, in Sydney, there was still a very, very heavy freestyle demographic through all those clubs, through Fitness First. And I remember the not that you ever really saw it, but you sort of felt that there was a divide between the freestylers, and the Les Mills people over there. And I remember going to some network or fitness networks or Filex things way back, and you felt that in some places. You went along and walked in, and you're wearing Les Mills stuff. It's like, wow, you know. But I get it, because freestyle was what people were used to. That there's this new thing coming in to tell me this is what I've got to do and how I've got to do it. Hang on a second, you're taking away my flair or my creativity.
And also, a lot of these instructors, I mean, the goal was for some time there to teach a step class without any taps in it. So it was tap-free steps. So everything just flowed right, left, but just so many different movements. And so these, myself included, this is what I used to teach, where you work so hard on honing your skill on teaching a beautifully effective class that's complicated, but if you put the time in, you learn to coach it well, that people can actually follow. And when people come in the last 10 minutes, they go, how did you get everyone to do that? and then we're asking them to step back and just teach up, down, down. Like it was sort of a regression because they had all these beautiful skills that they'd worked so hard to develop, and now their clubs were putting in a program that was back to basics, which was great for entry level and gaining new members, because the more complex, the harder it is for new people to join. But yes, these instructors had, myself included, worked a long time on these skills that were now sort of, well, what am I meant to do with these skills? Yeah.
So you mentioned there as well that combat was the next program that you trained in.
Combat. So I trained in attack, but I've taught attack occasionally, sporadically, but it's really not. My body doesn't enjoy that type of movement pattern. Body combat. We did a train the trainer boot camp. Emma Belly came over from New Zealand to train the Les Mills Asia Pacific team. There was so many of us, we can't even remember. We did a boot camp. She killed us. She, we trained so hard, our eyelashes hurt. She killed us. She killed us. We thought we were fit because we were body stepping and body attacking and pumping, but body combat was just muscles we've never felt before. And then obviously, Taibo had sort of started this craze of martial arts, and Les Mills went, well, we've got a program. And so, I remember after the boot camp, John Kelly and I launched the first body combat class at a quarterly workshop in Sydney. We used to hold them down in Manly at the Manly RSL Sea Eagles Club anyway, and the hall smelt of beer. It was that sort of a place, and you'd have to walk through the sort of pokies and the bar to get up to the and people just could not get enough of it. I remember the first 9 months of being a body combat trainer, I worked every weekend for 9 months, every weekend. And there were so many of us going everywhere. I went to every state in Australia, rolling out body combat module training. I went to Asia on a 3-week tour, 3 countries, just module after module after module. It was just, the world could not get enough of martial arts. People were just with open arms going, come, you're a body combat trainer, instructor, whatever. We just want to do this class. It's crazy.
So what release combat did you do? Did you do one?
One. Wow. Body combat 1. Yeah. So the boot camp was on 1, but the boot camp was before it had launched anywhere internationally. Yeah. So Emma was going around training all the teams in obviously the where the agencies were, and then they were launching that program into market from Body Combat 1. The warm-up was Celine Dion, My Heart Will Go On. There was a Can't Touch This by MC Hammer, and I think Shake a Tail Feather was track number 6.
Oh, wow.
I can't remember what else was on there, but they're the ones that stand out. Like it was, and it's nothing like it is now, but we thought we were so cool.
Yeah.
We were, of course, we were so cool, but we thought we were so cool as well. So, it was a pretty amazing sort of experience to have the opportunity to be part of.
This is the Group X podcast. So Combat, when it first came out, did it have the sound effects in it from the beginning?
Yes.
It did.
Oh, yes. That was it. You've reminded me. So there used to be sound effects to sort of signal, 2 more. Yep. And then we're changing.
Yep.
And I remember the controversy too, because it used to have sound effects for the punching and the kicking to make you feel a bit more badass.
Yeah.
And I remember the controversy when Les Mills said, we're taking the sound effects out. And we were like, how will I know when to change? Like it was just this massively huge deal. Yeah. And then, 2 releases on, no one even remembers that we had that. And when I look at, the program's been through a few different evolutions, and obviously LMI Les Mills International looks to market research to see, and a pendulum swings this way and that way. But when I look to what it has been, to what it started, it just a totally, totally different program. Yeah. But still one of the most successful programs for Les Mills, which I think just speaks volumes to people enjoying that type of training.
Yeah. I remember teaching a freestyle boxing class at North Sydney many moons ago, and didn't have music and borrowed one of Shannon Cleary's CDs, and it was a combat CD. I was just like, I need something with music. Yes. Yeah. So I was like, what's that? Yeah, and the bell that was ding ding, and it was like,
The bell was change coming.
Yeah, it was fantastic, and that was my first. I think my first insight into a first time I'd actually heard anything. But then I remember doing a class with you and James at North Sydney, and look, I could throw a punch to hit something, but throwing a punch to the air,
you got to catch it.
Yeah, I just remembered giggling myself senseless in that class, and I'm sure you and James were as well, looking at me going, Tone, we're glad you're here, but wow.
Good effort, mate, good effort.
It was so much fun, but at the same time, I don't think I ever went back because I was like, yeah, I can't. Like you in attack, I just didn't fit with attack or with combat for them.
It's interesting because you bring up my husband James, because I did rope him into teaching body combat with me for a number of years, and I remember at that time I was still teaching body step. I said, come to a body step class, and he literally, I had to ask him to leave because he was literally falling over the platform. I'm like, okay, this is not your movement pattern. But
yep.
Body combat and body pump, I guess, but I noticed it more in body combat to get more men into fitness.
Yeah,
was a really, that program was a really great gateway to, that whole sense of aerobics, and we're in leotards and thick socks and it's all fluoro and we're jumping up and down like bunnies, and it really was an evolution in the industry to make it more accessible and have it open and acceptable that men would consider, not just circuit training, but I'm going to go do an aerobic class, but it's some body combat thing.
You mentioned traveling Asia and traveling overseas and in different countries and that kind of thing. When you went and did that and you were presenting in those countries, demographic of male to female, can you remember what it was? Was it? I'm going to say it's obviously predominantly always been female instructors teaching, but in Asia, is it different? Were you getting more?
It is different. There's more men, and for body combat particularly, because it's martial arts inspired, and it was a little bit hilarious because here I am. I was an Anglo-Saxon female trying to teach instructors how to teach a martial arts program from countries where they learn martial arts from a young age. So it was actually very, very comical. But that, the culture is so respectful of teachers that that was all sat with me and nothing to do with anything I experienced anywhere. But it was quite hilarious. But in Asia, the market is a little bit different. So in Australia, particularly for combat, particularly. We like the technique. We like to move well. We like to understand what we're doing and the science behind it. And in Asia, they're just there to have fun.
Yeah.
And one of the ladies I was working with in Hong Kong, she said, we don't have a lot of outdoor space, so our clubs become where we go for recreation, and their clubs would literally be open. We'd finish teaching a 9 p.m. body combat class, which had like 90 people in it. And then they'd clear out and bring in the table tennis tables, the ping pong tables, because then the club would just keep having activities on the whole time, and it was just a totally different market. And in Australia, we go to the gym, we do a class, we leave, we go. There they'll come and hang out for 3 hours. They'll go to the sauna. They'll have something at the juice bar, and it's quite a really social environment for them. So they're not really going there to train hard. I'm not saying that's everyone, but. We're just gonna have fun in this class, and then we're gonna do another 2 classes after. Yeah, it's very social, and it's lovely. But then they're obviously teaching a different way, and we talk about sound effects. They make the best sound effects themselves.
Yep.
If you don't initiate it, they'll just go without you. Yeah, they just
Oh, perfect. How was it teaching though, or presenting in countries where English isn't a first spoken language?
Yeah, So in a few of my modules, I had interpreters. So I would say something and then they would interpret it, which really made I was lucky to have that experience early on, because it really made me assess, well, what of this is fluff and what's actually the information that they need to be good instructors. But I remember doing guest classes, obviously, and so respectful. So they would give me the microphone, and it'd be a full class, and I'd be team teaching with one of the local instructors, and they'd give me the one microphone they had, and I'd cue it in English. And he'd yell in his own language what the actual coaching should be so everyone else could understand it without a microphone. And that's how we do the class. I'd be like, why have I got the microphone? But that whole respect and it was very different. And but I mean, such a joy. And now when I look at, obviously, Les Mills, there's lots of different things that in the Les Mills model that we say makes a great class experience. And I can see the value of all of those tools and skills, and being good at one of them makes you, you're a good instructor, but actually if you can broaden your knowledge and your skill base and be good at different things, your appeal to different people will broaden. Yeah. It's a great industry. I recommend anyone to when you go on holidays, jump into the local club, into any class. Yeah. I mean, it's Les Mills, right? So you know what to expect. Yeah. And just see how they do it differently, because every country has something that they just do differently, and that's why different programs are popular in different countries.
That's one thing I even noticed here in Australia when I was working for Les Mills and travelling New South Wales and WA. It was still done differently. Well, it's sounds stupid when I say this. It's the same, but it was different.
It's a bit different.
Yeah, it is. It's the same thing. We're used to going in there, but every club that I went into had their own flair and their own way to deliver what it was. Even though it was the same, it was just their culture, their I can't even think of the right word I'm wanting to try and use here, but their ethos, maybe. The way
they have a different demographic, though, don't they? Even though the programs are predictable, there is some freedom within the programs to adjust the workout to the demographic. And even within Sydney, I teach some classes in the CBD. It's a very different demographic to a couple of classes I teach out in the suburbs.
Yes.
And I teach the same program, but I actually I teach exactly the same choreography, but I just present it slightly differently using different information, because it's a different clientele. And I think the more experienced you are, and possibly because I had a freestyle background and I was used to creating choreography for, these guys are good at complex things, these guys aren't. And I could see that. I can see that you need to adjust to who's in front of you, because even though the programs are predictable and they are the same, it's
reflecting on that now. I can remember teaching 6 a.m. in North Sydney and then going over to teach 9:30 at Randwick or Maroubra or even Bondi Platinum. And the way you taught had to be different, because they were a different demographic that were in front of you, especially the 9:30, and I say the 9:30 mums that were dropping kids off to school and then coming into the gym to train.
They're the hardest, because they're like on limited time. Get on with it, Tony.
Yeah, but I couldn't teach like I did at 6:05 in the morning to those that just wanted me to grrr, because they were like, get me on with this day. I've got to do this. I'm not going to talk to you. But the mums would hang around afterwards.
Yes.
But they wanted it intense, but just drop it down a couple of notches for me. And, I'm happy to let's go and have a coffee after.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. yeah, exactly. And it's, and that's the great thing I think about when you instruct, to have that diversity of classes and not sort of pigeonhole yourself into, well, I only teach evening classes and that's all I'm good at, because the more exposure you have, the broader your skills are. Yeah. The more longevity you have.
Weirdly enough, my most funnest, if that's the word I'll use, which sounds stupid.
It is a word now.
Funnest classes over.
That's how words start.
Were Monday and Wednesday lunchtime in North Sydney. That was that lunchtime crew that, you know what, we've got an hour, Tony. Make sure this is a 45-minute class, because I've got 15 minutes, and in that 15 minutes I've got to get here, and I've also got to have a shower at the end and get my lunch and get back to work. So let's go. And
showers were optional from my memory, but I'm just saying, some people would go, I'd rather stay for the whole class and then quickly just put dry clothes on.
No, I couldn't sit in an office next to someone that had trained and been stinky. No.
Yes, God, I have seen it happen. But I remember that, I mean, at the time, and I don't know what that club's like now, but it was such a well-run club, and Shannon Cleary was the GFM at that time, and she just was very good at timetabling and understanding how to create a strong class following and provide the members with really what they wanted, but also what they needed.
Yeah.
She was very good.
Yeah. She was a taskmaster. I give her that, because she was who I did my RPM training with Pete, as I've told people, and Shannon was the one that didn't let me teach anything apart from the track that I was given until I was A-OK. And I hated her at the time, but I so appreciate that now, because it allowed me to be the instructor I am today. That if she hadn't, would I have ended up like I was? Would I have been given the opportunity to teach on the timetable with all of you guys that were, international trainers, presenters back then? I feel very privileged to be able to share the stages with you guys, because that group of members at that club expected such a high level, because they got such a high level from all of you, that when I was given that opportunity, I was very humbling and like, wow, okay, yeah, cool. And learning from you guys every time I walked past you and watched you in a class was like, oh, steal that.
Yeah, take that. No,
yeah, write that down now.
I think we used to tell people in modules, take a notepad to classes with you and write things down, and we used to all sort of move around and share like that. But, you bring up a good point. It's easy to be angry and quit when it gets hard, right? But when someone raises the bar and you reach it, I mean, the amount of self-confidence and self-belief that it builds, and the pride you have in going, that was hard, but I did it, that actually makes it more worthwhile, because now even you're thinking back to that time where you go, yeah, it was hard, but I did it. And look, and this is what I achieved or was a result of that. And I think that's a really important thing to think about, one, when we're training and evolving new trainees, but also when we think about the people that we're teaching in class. And yes, obviously we want to pitch the workout to the level of the majority, but at the same time, if we're committing to a time slot and we're working overtime with those people, I always look at my classes over a year's time. I go, okay, this is where we are. This is where I want to try and get them in a year's time, and just incremental little, give them the self-belief, give them the knowledge how to do it, and then just give the right amount of push. Come on, everyone, let's, and you require a trust. You have to invest in your time slots, and then they invest in you and they trust you to take them to whatever that place is. And part of what's kept me in group fitness or just fitness generally for so long is being able to see those shifts in people that possibly they didn't think were possible at the beginning, which is very exciting.
I used to love the challenge of being given a class that either someone
not working. Not working.
Yes, that was either not working, or someone else that was a high level personality that had been in there, that the class was chockers. And I'll give you an example of my first ever RPM at North Sydney. Was taking over from Andrew Taylor's Monday morning 7:05 or 7 a.m. class. It was chockers, because I used to be in there with everybody doing it. And then when AT told everyone he was leaving and I was taking it on, there was a bit of, going on. And I, of course I was the same. I was like, dude, but then I was like, yeah, but it's me. I'm going to have a shot. And I walked in and there was maybe 5 people and they all sat in the back row and
judging you.
Yeah, it was very much holy, whoa, okay. You know what? They don't like Tony. That's fair enough. I don't like Tony either at times, but I appreciated the fact that Shannon saw an opportunity for me to jump in there and learn, and over time the numbers grew.
Yeah, of course.
Week in, week out, more people came in, and I think a lot of what I'm trying to get at here with a lot of instructors out there, if you get given a class and the numbers are low, that's your time to shine and focus on who's in there and deliver to the 5 people that were in there in that back row, because they got up, they come to my class, they come to the gym to do a class. Now I could have sat there and wallowed in that self-pity and gone, oh God, they hate me, whatever, or get the shits. But I taught the best class I possibly could to those people who then
every week
told their friends, hey, you know what, this isn't so bad, this is all right, come in here. And it grew back again to being another full class on that timetable. Admittedly, it probably took 4 or 5 months of hard work every Monday morning to do it.
But it's people have to develop a reliance and a trust. We can't expect for people at any point in our teaching careers to love us because, well, don't they know who I am, or don't they know what I'm capable of? Well, actually, no, they don't. So you need to show them. You need to turn up for them in the same way they turn up for you. And I love what you say is you can take any slot and make it successful.
Yeah.
You just have to invest in that slot and invest in your tools and skills and the relationship, and you have to consistently turn up. And we always teach a great class. Some classes, but if you're consistently delivering, then you develop that trust with people, and that's a really big part of having longevity and successful time slots in any time slot.
This is the Group X podcast. Dee, have you ever had an opportunity to present on masterclass filming?
I did present one time on a body balance masterclass. It was presenting on masterclasses was never an aspiration of mine, but when Kylie Gates was leaving Australia to move to New Zealand to take her role at LMI, she I guess you could call it a celebration release. Yep. There was an opportunity for a range of trainers from around the world to come and present. There was a whole heap of us. I can't remember how many. And as she said, it was a sort of thank you for your contribution to body balance. Come and train this filming release. And it was quite lovely. Am I interested in doing another one? No. Yep. I know for some, we're all different. I know for some people, that's something that they would like to do, and I encourage them to. We all need to have goals and things that we're working towards. Yes, it's certainly an interesting process, and I think even since that time, the process has changed quite a lot now again, and obviously where Les Mills International is going with that product through their online platform is very different. But yes, it's a different skill set again. Yep. So being an instructor is a different skill set. Being a presenter is a different skill set. Being a trainer is a different skill set. Teaching on a masterclass is again a different skill set, and it requires different things from you. And obviously each one prepares you for the next one. Yep. And then obviously some people enjoy it a lot, and other people don't enjoy it a lot.
I obviously not teaching balance myself. I wasn't aware.
We should all be teaching body balance. Well, we know that. That's the program with longevity.
That's the thing that I've realised with the hip replacement is that it's probably what I needed to do many, many years ago. That finally getting to realise now as I'm getting, not getting any younger. I don't like saying it the other way, but as I'm not getting any younger, I need to look at certain things, and that could be, once the other hip's done, I might be able to start touching my toes again.
You'll be right to go. Of all the programs that have evolved the least, Body Balance is the program that's evolved the least. It has had slight evolution, but I mean, it's mostly yoga. Yoga's been around for 5,000 years, so it's already evolved. It's such a great program for longevity for everyone.
I do remember doing one class in North Sydney, and I'm pretty sure you were the instructor at that class, and I do believe that in the meditation track at the end that I may have accidentally fallen asleep.
Success.
I do think that I'd come from also doing an RPM class or something that was pretty intense, and it was a quick rinse in the shower and then in there and doing the class, and because I snore, I'm a snorer when I sleep. I can be asleep within 2 minutes and start snoring. That's just what happens. And I do believe there may have been a little that popped in there, but I remember at the end there was only a couple of us left in the class because you just let us go. We were, in there, and I appreciate that because it was.
You needed the sleep, right? Because you were working very hard. Whatever you can.
Yeah, it was fun. Hey, couple of more questions for you. What are you doing these days? What is your role within Les Mills, and what are you doing outside of Les Mills?
Yes, so I have 3 distinct roles with Les Mills, all of them totally separate. Presenter, so as a presenter, I teach classes at quarterly workshops. So that's one role. I'm a trainer, so I take training modules, initial training modules, as well as advanced training modules. So that's a separate, distinct role. And then I work in the office. My title is head trainer. So it's part of the people and culture department, and I work alongside the team training manager, Rio,
Yep.
and the people and culture director, Amanda Breen, who's based in Australia, and I help with recruiting, developing, and maintaining quality of our training team.
Yep.
As well as assisting with other cultural people and culture and skill development type things for presenters and trainers.
Yep. So everyone will know what a question I'm about to ask you now, because I ask it in most of my.
How much do I earn? No.
No, you can share that. No. No. Do you have a favourite? I know we're not meant to have a favourite, but out of the three that you've got, is there? I won't say favourite, but is there one you prefer over the other two? And if so, why?
There is, and I think obviously, I mean, I've been with Les Mills for a very long time, and as I've evolved, what I've enjoyed doing has evolved. But definitely, currently, I love the work I get to do as a head trainer, because I call that legacy work. I've had my moment in the spotlight, and where I can add the most value now is helping other people have their moment in the spotlight, and also imparting my knowledge and creating some great systems to take the next generation and the generation after that into the future. So that's probably the one that I enjoy the most. At other times, the training role, and definitely when I started the presenting role, but I was a different person then. I think developing other people is, for me, really powerful, because I really enjoy seeing potential and seeing how can I help you get there faster? How can I help you be better than me? That's that currently. Yeah. Who knows what it'll be tomorrow? No. Tomorrow it'll probably be the same, but yeah.
No, I like that. So the role you've been doing at Les Mills head office here in Canberra, how long have you been doing that for?
Almost 5 years.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Are you seeing a different era of trainer and presenter come through? I mean, obviously there is a different era anyway, but are they what am I trying to say here? Is it a different type as the programs have evolved and you've been around and seen it for so long? Are you seeing a different type of person come through than what was there previously?
Yes. I joined Les Mills in 1998. So there's been lots of different, like the programs have evolved, the business has evolved, and the needs of the business have evolved. And as a response to that, like any other business, the way we go about doing things has evolved, and so the people that have evolved as well. There's some things that have remained constant, but I think also the business is better at providing people with the tools and skills to do what they need to do. But definitely, as the industry changes and evolves, I think Les Mills has hit a stage of maturity in the industry. We've sort of been industry leaders for a very long time, and so when you come from trying to build a product or a brand, and then you've got that level of maturity, people have different expectations on you, and that requires different skill sets, and different skill sets potentially require different types of people. Not everyone, because there's still things that we need to do that we've always been doing. But yes, there has been some evolution. Yeah. As I'm sure they'll continue to be as the industry sort of evolves and the business evolves to meet the needs of their customers.
I like that. That's if I relate that to Group X management, and I've sort of alluded to this a little bit in the past, that as a Group X manager, you need to have different hats. You need to have a different skill set to manage your department, manage your people, because there's so many different personalities that are in front of you as well. And it's a skill set that needs to evolve constantly, because the people you have on your team aren't going to be the same people you have in your team in 12 months' time. I'll guarantee you that the team you've got today is going to be different to the team you're going to have in 12 months, even maybe 6 months. They're changing. And I think even more so now, or post, lockdown, post COVID, all that kind of stuff, when instructors have a different, I suppose, a different view on group exercise, where before it could have been their whole thing that they were doing. Now it's a part-time thing for some people, and they're looking at it differently. They've changed as Group X managers, and I believe also as the role you're mentioning you're in. That skill set needs to evolve and develop and change forever. It's never going to be what you're doing today is what you're doing in 6 months. It's, you need to adapt and have that adaptability to make sure you're relevant and can do it to who's in front of you, and make sure that the company is going to evolve, and you, if you're in that Group X management space, to make sure that you're continually on top of your game to ensure the quality is of a high standard.
Absolutely. And, being a group fitness manager, Group X manager, managing a team of people, managing a timetable, managing the wants and needs of the customers that are paying your wage and helping the business turn a profit for whatever club you're in, it's a totally different skill set to being an instructor. And just because you might be the best instructor on the timetable doesn't mean you're going to be the best manager or the best leader to lead a team, because, as you say, the team, one has different types of people on it, but needs different types of people, because there's, we can't have a team of David Beckhams because we'd all be at the front pulled around the goals trying to score, and who's at the back defending? No one. So there's different roles within the team, and so to manage a team and manage a good team, you need to be able to understand people. You need to be able to understand the commerciality of the business and what's possible and what's not possible. You need to be a great communicator. You need for people to understand, I'm listening to you, but the reason we've made this decision is because, the owners, you have to be able to manage up the reporting chain. You have to be able to manage down the reporting chain. You have to have a holistic view of what's going on, and you have to have your eye on innovation, because it's always evolving. And one of the challenges of the fitness industry is many people move into the industry because they're passionate about fitness, but passion doesn't pay the bills. And so whether that's for the fitness professional or for the club owners, it's still a business. It still has to make a profit to enable you to have this great place to work in, right? So there is some commercial reality, and I think sometimes what can happen is we're so passionate about, I just want to teach a great class, or I just want to be a great personal trainer, or whatever the case is. But there is that midline between balancing the experience with the commercial realities of business, and you sort of, I think people who move into sort of management or leadership roles need to sort of balance that.
Totally. I think that if I'm looking at as a Group X manager at the moment, the thing that I see a lot of clubs fail at, and that's a big statement to make, but a lot of clubs that aren't doing it correctly, can you teach 5:30 Monday night? Yeah, cool, it's yours, take it. Whoa, hang on a second. I'm an owner of a gym now. I'm just going to put a different hat on. I'm an owner for a gym, and as an example, you're a Group X manager. You've just told me that you've just employed someone to do Monday night at 5:30. But you haven't seen them teach. You don't even know whether they fit with our members. I haven't met them as a club owner. That freaks me out. Yeah, and I think for a long period of time, and if I cast my mind back to 2008 at Fitness First North Sydney when I was Group X manager there, that's how things were. You know what? Yep, you can come and can you teach? Who do you know that's available to teach this class? Yep, cool, go for it. And off they went. Now, I didn't know whether they were suitable. I hadn't actually had that skill set as a Group X manager back then to be able to get somebody in, or should I say have the time to be able to get somebody in, assess them, look at them, suss them out, have a chat to them, understand whether they were the right fit for the club or not. And I think that's an area where Group X managers, we need to get away from finding covers for people, get away from updating a timetable, get away from doing the pays, get away from that stuff that should be automated for us, and focus on the stuff that really makes a difference in that space. And having a look at our instructors, because not every instructor fits every timetable. Yes, there are so many instructors that are trained in those programs, but just because you're a body pump trainer, and I use pump as an example, just because you're a body pump trainer doesn't mean you're automatically going to be an amazing fit for my club at 5:30 on a Thursday night. The people coming into my club at 5:30 on a Thursday night, like I alluded to when I started teaching my RPM back then, they expect something, that, okay, are you going to be able to deliver that? I don't know, because I've never met you. Great that I can just go, cool, call on you, cover this for me, brilliant, if it's a one-off. But if you're looking to put instructors on timetables and have them on permanently, you really need to make sure that they fit, because if they don't,
culturally, yes.
it's the easiest way to kill your club and kill your gym is putting the wrong person on the wrong time in the wrong class, the wrong place.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I like what you've said there, that there is opportunity to automate some things that there's technology to automate and that really actually don't require a person to be reviewing that. Maybe some checks and balances as any business should have, but there are some things that we can automate, and the things that we can't automate is relationships and an understanding of cultural fit, and understanding who your customers are, because for every club it's going to be different, and understanding how to create a team that's going to gel with your customers. And change happens person to person, and I appreciate what you're saying about group fitness managers sort of needing to maybe flip the focus. I just wonder whether they're empowered to do that, whether they're resourced to do that, and whether the industry understands the value that room or multiple rooms bring into a facility, and how you can so easily service so many members and build that relationship and community, because you can have the best or the worst facilities, but it's the community that's actually going to make or break your business. And so your group fitness manager or group exercise manager is the person at the forefront of ensuring that you have an army of people who are representing your brand to your customers, and are they representing it in a way that gels with your business goals and what you would like to see happen for your business. So I think the mindset is at the manager level, but also at the owner or above that level as well, in terms of understanding the value of community, the value of one instructor teaching, if your room holds 100, teaching 100 people, and that relationship that they build, and how can we empower these instructors and the people who manage them to have the tools and skills to create that community for us in our clubs.
This is the Group X podcast. I've had chats with people recently, and not on the podcast, but just in life and passing, around the hours that a Group X manager should do. And some people say, it's a full-time job. I'm going to make a statement here and say that it's all dependent on the size of the timetable and the size of the team. If you're working at a centre that only has 15 classes a week, it's not a 40-hour-a-week job. The skill set is the same, but the hours you need to do for that club vary from club to club. Now, if you have a club that has 120 classes on your timetable, then the hours you do need to reflect the hours of work that's got to go in there. I stress big time to a lot of clubs out there that have 50, 60, maybe even up to 70 classes a week. They're only giving their Group X manager 5 or 10 hours a week. What are you doing? Because you're not giving your Group X manager enough time to manage Group X in the department within your business properly. All you're giving them time to do is update the timetable, find covers, do the pays, enter numbers into a spreadsheet they're probably never going to show you anyway, because you're not looking at the importance that group exercise has. As you alluded to a second ago, you can have one person teaching to 100 people. Let's just turn around that whole equation for a second and go, if you took group exercise out of your gym, how many members would you lose? If you don't have the right instructor teaching your class, how many members are you going to lose? Clubs need to stop seeing group exercise as a cost center and see it as that retention tool that it really is, but give group exercise the importance that it deserves. Make sure, as we're saying, the Group X manager isn't just a glorified instructor, that they actually have a skill set that's going to be able to do it, or are willing to learn the skill set to do the job properly, or do what's required, not properly, because that's probably not the right word to say, but do what's required to make it successful and lift it from where it is.
And lift it. And part of that is having the capacity to actually build a team.
Yeah.
And not just be caught up in the administration of it all. I know in my over 20 years of teaching, I will take a pay cut to go and work with a group fitness manager who builds a good team in a facility that maybe isn't that brand new, because it's more fun. It's more enjoyable for me to be part of a team that's performing and to be with a group fitness manager who values the contribution I make or listens to my suggestions. Doesn't have to say yes to all of them, but at least acknowledges, I'll think about it. I'll see how it fits with the needs of the business. And I think that I agree with you. It's not a cost center because actually group exercise, group fitness is part of the service your members pay for.
Yeah.
So it's the cost of delivering the service that they're paying for. So it's costing you money, but that's what they're paying you to deliver. Yeah. So to me, it's sort of like saying, I come to a restaurant, but you have to go cook your own food because we've decided that at this restaurant you have to cook your own food, even though you build that into the price of the membership, and so to say that it's a cost to the business, well, that's the business model.
Yeah,
so
it is a cost.
If you want to take away that service, then you become a 24-hour club that's a gym, right? And that's a totally different offering. So you're either offering that and you're investing in offering the best that you can, or you're not.
Yeah.
And if you're not actually, and someone else is, then that's an easy equation for members. But also, at the moment, there's an instructor shortage, as we know. Post-COVID, people's habits have changed, and so being able to recruit people who want to come and work for you. And I work at four centres. I don't teach a lot.
Yep.
Most of it's body parts.
Yep.
Right on the body. But one of my favourite centres to teach at, I teach on a basketball court. I have to wheel the stereo out. I put my headphones on. There's no stage. We're all just there on the basketball court. And then at the end, I wheel the stereo back in. Yep. But it's just a beautiful community feel. And so it's, yes, nice brand new equipment's great and a beautiful space is great and all of that can add benefit, but you can actually create a beautifully successful business model if you don't have all of those things by simply building the right team and creating the right community feel in your club, in the service offering that your members are paying you to provide for them. So I don't take offense, but I just, when people say, it's a cost center, I'm like, well, it's not a cost center because that's what I'm paying you for. I'm paying you to provide me this service. So you're either providing the service or you aren't. So it costs what it costs. And you know that when you choose to offer that service, like any other business in any other industry, you have to put your business brain on and say, what's it going to cost? How much do I need to charge to stay profitable so I can stay in business? Great, this is what it's going to cost me, and off you go.
Yeah. I look at, if I cast my mind back again to 2003 to when I first started, and PT was really pushed hard. There was AIF, FIA, a whole lot of stuff. It was advertised on the radio. It was advertised everywhere that you got into PT, and clubs were bringing PTs on left, right and centre, and they were paying rent. And you were paying for PT and you're actually making money as a club. You're making money. So it makes money for you. You don't have to pay for it. It makes you money. That's when I believe that group exercise took a dive, not took a dive, but took a dive in the priorities of club owners and managers and the industry because, it doesn't make us money. It costs us money. Now, that's what I believe the industry needs to change and look at differently. And I think clubs across the board need to spend more time and focus on what group exercise does. Yes, it costs you money, as we're saying, but at the same time, how many members do you have in your club that just come in and do group exercise?
Or 80% of what they do is group exercise. So the cost per use on your equipment or the wear on your equipment is minimal, and you're getting, a life cycle of a chest press for 2 years instead of 1 year.
Yes. Yeah. That's the shift, the big shift that I think needs to change, where we as an industry need to be paying more attention to what's happening in our group exercise space, even more so now than 2019, before everything went pear-shaped. Because if we, as we know, we've said instructors have more opportunity to, they're looking at different things now because hang on a second, all of a sudden I lost my money. I've gone and found a second job, or I found what's now my first job, and group exercise teaching classes is my second job. Now more than ever, I think the industry needs to look at what's happening in that space to lift it, to make sure that, one, we got the right instructor, as we're saying, but also why should that instructor come and teach for you? Why does that instructor, they've got the opportunities now. There's the instructors that are out that are still teaching have an opportunity to go and teach wherever they want, because there's a lot of classes up for grabs, because those instructors that, the plethora, is that word again, Tony, plethora that we have of instructors has moved on. Yeah. It's now switched, so the instructors get to choose where they want to work. So why would I come and work for this club here over that club down the road? What are you offering me? Yeah, it's not just can you teach? Yeah, cool, come in and teach. I want to know what you're doing for me as an instructor these days, because if it doesn't fit me as an instructor, I'm not going to come and teach for you. Yeah.
I think also instructors want to know what you're doing as a business to invest in that space, because when I say invest, I mean even just energy, as I've said before. It's not purely about having the nicest looking studio. It's about how that part of your business is valued, and you can feel that as soon as you walk in the door. And at clubs that sort of go, oh, group fitness or group exercises over here, when there's a shortage, people are going to say, well, I don't really want to go there to cover that class, because they don't really, it's not nothing positive to walk into. And so it is quite interesting, because it's not always about money for instructors. And I know there are some instructors and some people who work in fitness full time. For me, fitness has always been what I consider a part-time gig, which I know people think is funny, but I've always had a job outside of fitness, even outside of being a trainer and presenter from Les Mills and an instructor. I've always had other jobs. So ironically, at the moment, my other job is with Les Mills, but it's I call that like a people and culture job. It's and I think now we've gone through this change worldwide of priorities and people looking at their lives a little bit differently. There is quite a lot of part-time people who do this because they love it. And so if you're not creating a place that they love to come to work, then that's where the challenge is. And it's like any other business. Like you go to Silicon Valley and there's 100 startups. People are going to want to go work for the startup where they feel best about being valued as a person, not necessarily the best pay, not necessarily the foosball table and the Google cafeteria, but it's just about valuing their contribution and acknowledging what that brings to the success of your business. And I guess part of that becomes being clear about what does success in your business look like for you? Is it a number, or is it something that you want to be doing for a long time? Are you looking for an exit strategy, or is this something that you're committing your life to and running a lifestyle business that happens to make you money? And it's all just, getting that clarity and then working hard to create that. Because if you're not working hard to create that, someone else is.
No, I like that, because I was going to ask you then, what bit of advice can you give instructors or clubs? And you've gone there. You answered that one for me, which is fantastic. So thank you for that. I got one last question for you. You ready?
Yes, I'm ready. Yes, the answer is yes.
The answer to the question of me asking you the question was yes. Okay, what about this one though? What does the future hold for Dee?
The rest is still unwritten, as the song says. That's RPM. What release was that?
29 I'm going to throw out there.
It also had Superman on there.
Yes. Now, weirdly enough, on my drive to the chiropractor this morning, is it Natasha Bedingfield?
Yes, that's the one.
I have this playlist and it played in the car. So there you go. Wow, that was meant to happen, that one.
That's my favourite ever RPM release to participate in at home.
Awesome.
Look, the future, who knows? For a long time, I used to set goals and go tick, tick, tick. Now I set a general direction. I'm completing some study part-time whilst doing all my other bits and pieces, and so I have a general direction that I'm heading in.
You don't have enough on your plate. You thought you'd throw in some study there as well.
Listen,
you're a mum, you're a trainer, you're a presenter, you're a people culture, and you thought you'd just go and are you doing a degree? Is it a uni?
I'm doing a degree, and I'm 2/3 of the way through. So that's very exciting. So I've got 1/3 left to go. Look, there's no. I'm fluid. I have a direction, but I'm fluid because when you're too rigid, you miss the opportunity if one arises. So we'll see.
I agree with you on that. I like
we'll
that.
See.
That's yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on and having a chat with me and spending, an hour and a half of your life to chat to me, Dee. I've really appreciated your story and hearing about you and what you've been doing. So thank you so much.
My pleasure. And thank you for casting a light on a very important part of our industry.